Hey everybody, it's Alan from Woodcrest Bonsai. And I was in a chat with Nigel Saunders working on his pine tree, his wind-blown pine this morning. And someone in the chat asked, can you bonsai palm trees? And so since I live in Zone 10 in Florida, which is very tropical, and palm trees are ubiquitous all over the place, there's probably 20 different species of palm tree that grow in the ground around here. I thought, well, let's make a video. So first of all, we have to understand the difference between a dicotyledon and a monocotyledon. And as I've drawn here, a dicotyledon has two, they're called seed leaves. So like when a pea, or any plant, when it first germinates, you get these round leaves, but they may not have any resemblance to the older leaves. Those are called the cotyledons. On a monocot, and I guess I need to drop my eraser, start over here. A monocot, when the seed germinates, only produces one leaf like that. And the cotyledon is actually, there is usually just one little cotyledon like that, and then the mature leaves begin to grow like that. So I actually have an example of that. This is a gazania daisy, and as you can see right there, there is the cotyledon, just one. And then these are the mature leaves. And these guys are a very small flower that only gets about 6 inches high and then produces beautiful daisy-like flowers. But there's your monocot, only one cotyledon. So when we have a dicot tree and it produces the adult leaves, you can obviously cut it way back and it's going to resprout. If you have a tree, if you have a monocot, let's say we have a palm tree, a large palm tree, like this, with the fronds like this, the only living part is that little bud, and it's way up here. So if you cut this palm tree here, or here, or here, or even there, it's dead. It has to have that living bud. So that's why it's difficult to bonsai palm trees, because you cannot pinch out that bud like you can over here, because there's nothing left to grow. Now there are some palm trees that sucker from the base, so if you pinch out that bud you'll get suckers, which is what I'm going to do today. And then there's also a group of trees, group of plants, and we'll called cycads. And these are very, very primitive trees. In fact, there are fossil cycads that are hundreds of millions of years old that have been found around the world. They have an interesting growth habit. So probably the most well-known monocot is a celery, right? We have our celery and we have our large stalks here. But then as you get closer to the center, those stalks become smaller and smaller, and then when you really get close to the center, they really drop fast. So then you have that little bud. And I'm sure we've all seen a celery with just 2 or 3 little tiny little leaves. That's the growing bud. And most monocots grow a mature leaf, a leaf that matures and another leaf that matures, and there's always another leaf coming. With cycads, it's different. With cycads, they normally have a bulb, and they have the mature leaves, but then the new growth emerges all at the same time. and every leaf emerges, elongates, and then arches out, and then hardens off all together. So cycads make the best bonsai because typically this whirl of leaves that emerges only happens once a year. So I've got an example of that, and I don't think we need this guy anymore. This guy right here is a Kunti. Kunti is Zamia furfuracei, if you're into scientific language. And this is a Florida native, actually. And this tree is about 10 years old. And they emerge, the new growth emerges, that whirl of growth emerges in May. And so here we are, 10th of May. And sure enough, if we look way, way inside, we see there's all those little tiny, I see 4 or 5, there's probably more than that. But that is the brand new growth getting ready to emerge. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 old leaves. And it has miniaturized quite a bit because this, I have some Kuntis in the ground. So let's move this guy back. This is the size of a mature Kunti leaf. So, you know, if we go like this, it's easily 3 or 4 times longer than this guy. So you can't pinch out that bud, although on Kuntis they do form suckers from the base. This one has never produced suckers, probably because it's just so restricted in the pot. But 10 years old, certainly miniaturized. And in fact, in the chat, somebody else from Florida said that king sagos make great bonsai, and they are another cycad, which does the same thing. King sagos naturally grow with a trunk that's, 14 inches across. They get 6, 8, 10 feet high. But you can do the same thing with a king sago. Get a young seedling, restrict the roots, restrict the fertilizer, and over time you'll get a miniature king sago. Today I'm going to try to work on a dwarf palm. I'm going to try to bring this guy up here. Are we ready? Whoa. This is in a 10-gallon pot, and I think I'm going to need to freestyle it a little bit. So this is a rhapis palm, spelled R-H-A-P-I-S. And this is a plant where all the main stalks died back. It was kind of stuck in an area where it wasn't getting much care. And so I pulled it out, and since then we've got all these young suckers. And you can see there's a little tiny baby one right there. Here's one with another one right next door to it. And then there's one over here that's all by himself. So I am going to attempt, and here's one that's died. This one has died. But that's okay because it'll send up new ones. So I'm going to try to pull, say like this group here out of 3. Maybe add the one over here and put it in a bonsai pot and see what happens. The problem with most palm trees, they're like celery. So you get a mature leaf and a mature leaf, then we have the young leaf here, but it's going to continue to grow up and up and up and up, unlike a cycad where they all come out as a whirl all at once and then they harden off. They just don't get a tremendous amount of height. Especially the Kunti that I just showed you, because even full maturity, they're only about 3 feet high, and the bulb stays down at the ground level. They never produce a stalk. So now I want to show you, this is Rhapis humilis, which is called slender lady palm. And I've got a couple others that I want to show you. This group here, which is just massive, I mean, look how tall they get, 12 feet. This is Rapis excelsa. This is in my yard. I have my pathway, which needs some weeding. And they also sucker from the base. These guys sucker from the base. And, you know, I maintain them so they stay kind of in a kind of in bounds. But like here's one right here that has crossed right over the path. That guy right there. So he has suckered. If we dig this up, it'll have a sucker going underneath the path and then to the parent plants. So I may try to dig this guy up. I have a few more. Here's another one. Little baby guy right there. And another one that's a little bit more mature. And another one that's even bigger. See, so turning those into bonsai is going to be difficult. Probably the best is going to be taking the smallest ones. But I do have the Rapis humilis, which is the guys in the pot that I just showed you. So I want to show you the difference. So this is the Rapis humilis. It still suckers, but nowhere near as aggressively. It doesn't get anywhere near as tall. It's right up to about the roof of my house, which is what, about 8 feet, 10 feet. So these are the little tiny guys that are in that pot that I showed you, that I'm going to actually attempt to turn into a grove in a bonsai pot as soon as I put this on pause and get back to my workbench. Okay, so here goes nothing. I've decided to choose a mica pot, and I just put window screen down at the bottom to keep the soil from draining through the holes. And I've also chosen to just put them into my homemade landscape mix. I don't think I need to give them bonsai soil. And then the next step is to try to get these puppies out of here. And my guess is that is going to be very interesting, which I think at this point I'm just going to pause, put the pot on the ground, and probably saw them out of there. I ended up with 3 groups. This group of 3, which looks like 2, but there's another guy hiding behind here. And then the main group, and then the one guy that was off by himself. And palm tree roots do not appreciate being dried out, but I did want to show you. So here's a dead one. So that's how they sucker from the base. And the ants that are in this pot are not happy with me. I'll probably have to treat for the ants. But there's an old stalk. Oops, that's definitely dead. So now, I don't think I need to do much with this guy. Actually, just going to use a regular pair of scissors. And so we're going to get him. And this pot's a little bit too big, but that's okay. Going to get him like that. Got to get some soil in there so he stays upright. I'm still trying to make a sort of a grove kind of look. And then we've got this one, which also just needs an aftercare for these guys is water immediately, and then shade, because these are shade-loving palm trees. So the fact that I'm doing this in the blazing sun is just because I ran out of time. I like to do my videos in the shade, but the sun came up and here we are. So put those guys about like that. And then we have our loner, the Lone Ranger, that has some pretty extensive roots actually. I know, ants. I'm not happy with you either. Now here's the old feeder part that I think I can take off. Just cut that off entirely. See all that? That's pretty much dead. And this guy's got a little tiny baby coming. So put him about right there. What do you think? All right. And as you can see by using a mica pot and my landscape mix, I'm not taking this all that seriously. Although I'm having fun though too. I'm having fun. And really, isn't that what it's all about? I know I'm the wrong gender, but I'm going to sing anyway. Because girls just want to have fun. I loved Cyndi Lauper. I thought she should have been more famous. But no, we ended up with Madonna. Okay. Yeah. And, you know, like I said when I showed you the pot that these guys were originally in, these are the survivors from trees that were 8 or 10 feet high in that pot. And just out of benign neglect, all the old trees died. And I think I may do a little bit of trimming. Just get rid of, you know, typically open up the growth, and take out some of the dead leaves, because palm trees die from the ground up. I don't mean like die, but the older fronds turn yellow and then brown, so why not just take those off in the first place? So that's not bad. We have our first main tree, have a little bit of space, we have this larger guy, and then this group over here with a little bit of depth. This guy's suffering a little bit, and the ants are not happy. Well, boy, wait till I spray you with poison. Then we'll see who's not happy. So there we go. Rapis humilis. Slender lady palm as a bonsai grove. And will this guy actually survive? I think it's going to. I really do. Like I said, they're tough plants. They came up from basically dead stalks. So there we go. So I'm going to end this video because I want to water it in very thoroughly and then put it in deep shade, very deep shade, because that's where it was growing. The pot that has all the ants in, the 7-gallon that I got these out of, was in very deep shade. So they're going basically right back in that same spot. And I have an exposed root right here, which I probably don't really like. This should be down more, but for now, it's no big deal. So thank you so much for watching. Do palm trees make good bonsai? I guess we'll have to see what happens with this group. And as that Kunti has that flush of growth emerge and harden, then I'll show you him too. And so the best way to do that is, if you haven't already, subscribe and hit the notification bell. You'll be able to watch these guys and the Kunti and all my other trees. And if you like this video, please give me a like. And we'll just have to see what happens from here. So thank you so much for watching Woodcrest Bonsai.